Hello, everybody, and welcome to Music Industry Insights Worldwide. Today we have the awesome Shaun Cassidy with us. Hi, Shaun, how are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for bringing me on the show. I'm so
Oh,
excited.
it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming along, sharing your story, your expertise with not just myself, the listeners, and the viewers. I really appreciate your time. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
I live here in San Diego, California. I'm the founder of Cassidy Creative Solutions,
Yeah.
and I focus on helping high creatives do well in life.
Oh,
And I've been doing that for 25 years. So I'm an international business strategist in that
that is
way.
so cool, Shaun. And how did you get into that? And how long have you been doing that for?
Um, Over 25 years,
Yeah.
and I was part of a startup company, an internet company called Travelocity. I was
Okay.
their first 10 employees. And I transitioned after that. So they got bought out, and it allowed me to go on my own. And since then, I've worked for myself, and but I have a passion for the creative spaces. So I like to work with creatives.
Well done. And how's that been like going from a company to being on your own and navigating that? How have you found that? That must be really scary.
Well, the first couple years were adjustments. Yeah, yeah. It's a mindset shift to be employed or self-employed. It's a big mindset shift. Yeah, you have to actually always be thinking about working, in relation to time when you're
Yeah.
self-employed.
I can
Yeah.
I can imagine that, Sean. And how do you find it being in San Diego, doing your bits and pieces, and also trying to support others? Now that must have taken you a little while to transition and get that right. How's that been?
Well, here in San Diego, we're kind of blessed in some ways because we're close to a lot of things in Los Angeles and San
Yeah,
Francisco, and
yeah.
we have all those things. But some of the challenges that you have here is that it's really known as a place that people go to the beach.
Oh yeah,
It's like a place you want to go and do that. So the
yeah.
business community took a while to develop here, and the creative community needs a lot of support because this is not as well known as Los Angeles or San Francisco.
Okay. And how do you think you're doing at the moment? And how is it going over in the States right now? Because we know there's a lot of changes going on right now. So how are you finding that? And how's the creative industry sustainable? Is it sustainable? Is everything going well?
There's a lot of anxiety in the creative sectors.
Mm.
I can say, there's a lot of concern about federal funding and the arts being cut.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of anxiety in general among creatives that
Mm.
are concerned about making a living, and they're concerned about the future.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can.
so there's a degree of anxiety in the States, and especially in the creative sectors.
And how do you find it for underrepresented, disadvantaged communities across the states as well? Is there enough support? Is there kind of support for people that are trying to get into the industry? And is there enough support for people that might have disabilities or neurodiversity?
It's a mixed answer. For some, yes. For others, there's huge limitations.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Getting into the industry is really difficult for some. And for others, they're doing quite well.
Mm.
Uh, I think the secret to that is those who have networks and build networks and have support networks.
Mhm.
And those that don't have support networks, they struggle a lot.
I kind of get that as well. I think, coming from a disadvantaged background myself and being in the creative industries, I do find it quite challenging sometimes, but also finding the right people that can understand what you're going through and how it's like to navigate that space. So, how did you do that? And I know you've been through a lot and you've kind of invested a lot of time, but you've also had some good support networks to support you along. So, how have you found that? And how do you think that is for people that might be struggling or might have difficulties in
Mm.
the area?
Yeah. As I told you when we first talked, I didn't have an easy childhood. My father died when I was 4 in a car accident, and
Yeah.
he's from Galway, Ireland, but he was a musical guy, musical person.
Yeah.
So he left me things I prized, and that was his music. He wrote in English and Irish, and books. I prized those kind of things. Those were my early life, and I used art basically to save my life. I mean, from
Yeah, I've been
from
there.
5 to 16 years old, I was a child that didn't play with other children.
Mhm.
It was always in my head.
Yeah,
And so I was making art all the time.
yeah,
And that's how I dealt with life. And actually, art would really be a thing for me that would save the course of the way I think. And it makes me an empathetic person now when I work with other people because I know what they had to go through.
yes.
So around 18 years old here in the States, well, it's a little different in Europe. It's quite expensive to go to school here,
Right.
especially to private schools.
Yes.
And yeah, so I was really blessed. I had the first angel, I would call, was an art teacher that believed in me. and wrote me a scholarship. And at 18 years old, I got what's called a Guggenheim Scholarship, or it's a fancy scholarship,
That's
like a
awesome.
full ride scholarship, and I got to go to one of the top design schools in the United States. I had two options. I could go to RISD in Rhode Island on the East Coast, or I
Yeah.
could stay in the inner city with my family, my mother and my younger sister, and go to the School of the Art Institute. And that's where it would start my creative endeavors. I was heavily involved in the creative scene of Chicago, Illinois, and
Oh,
in all aspects of that. And so I basically, and I'm an artist that became a business person. I'm still an artist at the core, but I'm a person that understands business as well.
well, I love your
And
background as well. I must say, it's really, really attractive and beautiful. And how have you found, like, obviously being from a disadvantaged background, investing in the arts, creating a story and a lane for yourself, but not just for yourself, for others? Do you think there's a lot of people that need that support at the moment? And how do you find, if people want to get support, how do they find that over in the States? How would you do that?
mm, I think to answer the reverse of the question, the
Yeah.
fastest way is to build support networks, what I was mentioned before,
Mm,
and to use the digital spaces, the internet spaces, to support those networks.
yeah.
Before you do it in the real world, you
Yeah.
use them to create, support networks and groups of
Mhm.
like-minded individuals
Which I love.
that really know you and understand you and get you and are behind you, rooting you on.
Yeah.
And I think in life in general, that's one of the most important things you can have in life is those people that have support networks.
I think that's really, really important. And, being a trans person as well, I didn't see a lot of representation. Did you find that you was represented? Do you find that you could find people that could understand your journey? Because sometimes it's unique or sometimes it's personal. Do you find that more often happens in the creative industries than it does in other places and other industries?
I do think that the creative industries are more accepting than the
Mm,
corporate world or the
okay.
business world in general, more accepting.
Yeah.
The problem in the elite aspect of creativity, let's go like, how you make a living at it and how you get work and all that stuff,
Yeah.
is that there's still a lot of biases there. And there's
Mm,
still a lot of walls, for people to get known, get successful, especially in music. It's so hard to make a living in music. And all we see over here in the States is the super successful ones, right? Like the ones
I was
making a fortune and the ones in the news all the time. But that's a really rare amount of people. Like it's really rare. There's so many people here in San Diego that are been in music for decades and all their lives. And, they still have second jobs. They still have two jobs and they still do that on the side.
Yeah. And I really love the fact that you're giving back and you kind of understand the route because you've navigated it yourself. So thank you so much for doing that. And obviously, what kind of challenges and barriers have you faced accessing the music and entertainment industries?
Mm. I think one of the biggest barriers is an economic barrier.
Mm-hmm.
I think economic justice to me is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is that it overlies all other things. So if you can't make a living at what you love to do,
Yeah.
then you are in an inequity, right?
Yeah.
And you are in an inequity. You you should be able to do what you love and
Mm-hmm.
make a living at what you love to do,
Yes.
irrelevant of who you are,
Yeah.
irrelevant of what you look like and who you are and what you are. You should be able to fulfill your destiny and have your dreams.
I believe
Above all, I want people to have their dreams.
I really believe in that. And how important do you think community is to having those dreams? Because for me, I think it's kind of been a really hard struggle and finding those networks and building those networks. Because sometimes you can't always find them. So sometimes you've got to build them for yourself. So, for me, it's kind of proving that I can do something I love that I'm passionate about, but trying to pay the bills is the tricky part. Have you got any advice on how to do that and how to keep it sustainable?
Well, the conversation I have when I've worked with a lot of high creatives is really discussing the illusion that money's not real,
Yeah.
and this is a strange conversation with people who are struggling for money,
Hmm.
because they've created an illusion that money's real. And like, I've been in 40 countries now in my life. I've been blessed to be able to be in different countries.
Yeah.
And, some of them all had different currencies.
Yeah.
and all had different ways, for some reason, you pay to exchange your own currency. Like you travel to another place and there's a euro and there's a dollar, there's a
Yeah.
yen, there's a that, and you pay to put it into another currency. It's like it's the illusion of that. And then we had the development now of digital currencies and also e-commerce, selling products and services online, which is just like mass amounts of selling of things. Yeah, and it's something I grew up with. It's something I learned later because
Yeah.
there's generational shifts between how you can buy everything online and get products and services online, and that didn't exist always.
Right.
And so I think overall there's this awareness of that there is abundance out there,
Hmm.
and it's always there. It's there to be tapped, but it mostly exists in the mind first that it's not for you or you can't have it or
I think my mind.
yeah, it exists right here. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
think I do
exists
that.
right here. Yeah.
And how can people break free of that mindset? Because I think for me, I've done a lot of internal kind of searching and looking for myself and finding my heart. What could you recommend for people that are struggling with that? That mindset, these barriers that might stop people, especially the economic ones.
Mm. The creative sectors are really good at this idea of bargaining.
Hmm.
Like I've never met, like if you meet high creatives, they're good at like, I'll help you do this
Yeah.
and return, you'll help me do this. Like I'll make you a meal if you do me this. And,
Yeah.
like we'll trade clothes and,
Yeah.
we'll do all those things. That's really the first start. The first start is to get those kind of groups of supports that say, well, I need to have my music edited. I need to have this done and
Yeah.
build a support network around you to provide services that you can provide in return for those. And that's the first exchange that I
Okay.
think happens. After that, it exchanges into the networks that get you work.
Hmm.
So first you have a support network that can help you and support you to a level. And
Yes.
then you have a network you have to open up that actually can pay you. That that's the bigger one. That's the
That's
bigger one to fix.
me, Sean, because I've been doing this for since I left uni, the second time I've been doing this for 5 years now, since I've done my master's degree, and I've not earned a penny. And I think, sometimes it's about following your heart, but being original, being authentic. But
Mhm.
how am I going to make that sustainable? And I think a lot of creatives face the same barriers as myself. You know, I think we can get platforms. I can be, put on different things. It doesn't mean I'm getting paid. It doesn't mean it's paying the bills. So what kind of advice would you give to people that keep going, that keep pushing that stuff out, keep being positive, but when it comes to making the money side, what are the tips and hints that you would give to someone on how to make that money?
Mm.
Because I think that's the hardest part of it all.
Well, I think really important for the creative sectors to understand how to put products and services online and sell digital
Yeah,
products. Like
yeah,
have digital product. A lot of people have their music and maybe books or all those things, but all the different ways of doing things digitally,
yeah,
right? So buying something you produced or created or other people produced or created
yeah,
and helping them also sell their things.
mhm,
So you really have to think of as your person as a digital salesperson,
yeah,
at all times. And I'm a big believer that everybody should have an e-commerce site. All creatives should have an e-commerce site, should be able to sell products and services through that. So the thing they need with that is to hook up to a bank account and a way of taking transactions, right? That's
mhm,
the two things they need. A website, perhaps, right?
yeah,
And then, move on from those angles in life to do that. But then the second part of that is really the important part of opening yourself up to a network that can pay you.
mhm,
And what happens in the creative sector is that we end up being in a bubble. Like
yeah,
these are people like us, these are people like us, and this is beautiful,
yeah,
right? But it's important to break it out by industries,
mhm,
not people.
mhm,
So when I think of helping people as a business strategist, I don't think just of humans. I think of industries,
yeah,
right? So I think of, for example, there's the arts community or the area like the high gallery spaces and all those. You're like, well, maybe they actually need entertainment there too, right? They actually need people to help them, provide entertainment, and those gallery owners would love to collaborate with you and would pay you because they're selling, high-end art.
mhm,
Like, and they want to bring in a crowd. And so, and they have a budget perhaps to to pay the artist and things like that. So what I mean by that is you're looking at industries, like that's an example of an industry within an industry, arts and culture, right? So the musicians collaborate with the gallery owners, right? And then vice versa,
And I
as an
really love
example.
I
Yeah.
love that. We had this discussion, didn't we? And, you know, having a shop front where you're not just doing your own, selling your own stuff, you're selling other people's work and supporting their work. I think that's really,
Mhm.
really important. How do you think it, you know, when you're collaborating, how important has that been to you to get you to where you are today?
It's everything. Yeah,
Mm,
it's everything. Yeah, I wouldn't be who I was today if I wasn't good at building networks and good at helping other people collaborate.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a secret to all my work.
And I think that's
Uh,
something I've learned as well along the way, you know. Sometimes it's not about myself, it's about uplifting and giving other people a platform. And that's something that I really get from you, Shaun, is, you know, you're not about just about yourself, you're about community and uplifting others. Because when you're lifted up, everyone else is lifted up with you. So I really do love that. I think it's really, really important.
yeah, service to others is really well. I think sometimes in life you have to find out what is your North Star, right? What is
Yeah,
your guide?
yeah.
And for me, I found out early in life, and I think that was my father's death that helped me with that. Because
Mm.
you have sometimes you need tragedy to have awareness.
I've had plenty of that. I've had so much of that.
Oh yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's the
And,
difficult part.
I'm going to say that the creative sector, high creatives, writers, musicians, artists,
Yeah.
generally have some pain.
Mhm.
Yeah, they generally do have some pain. I mean, some of the greatest writers in the world had pain. Some of the greatest musicians, people had pain.
And I think
Yeah. But the secret is to take pain and make it into power,
yes.
like to
I think
drive you every day. So I would wake up every day thinking it was my last day on earth, you know? I know it sounds morbid. We discussed that, but
yes.
it drives me every day that it could happen because it did happen to me in life, right? I saw it and I witnessed it as a child,
I'm sorry.
and it allows me
Mm.
to take it to a powerful state instead of a sad state. Let's think it was if you can take what you might think and others might think is tragedy and you
Yeah.
can turn it into power, you
Pos-
become a very powerful person.
Yes. I think that's a really beautiful thing that you just said there is sometimes, you know, you go through some really dark times, but you can channel that and make some beautiful things when you turn to the arts. And I think that's why I went to the arts in the first place. You know, I've been through a lot of trauma, I've been through a lot of dark times of my life, and they've not been chosen. But I think that's what the cards I was given. But trying to make the best of those and trying to make it into something that's not negative, something that's uplifting and positive, but also about community has been really, really important for me. So how
Mm.
have you found that? And obviously you've been through some dark times yourself. Do you find that that helps you to create art and be there for others and have that empathy and understanding?
Yeah, yeah. It is the most important thing there is that you can stay in the darkness for a very long time,
Yeah.
but you can only come into the light when you take your power.
Yes. I love
Yeah, so you have to take your power. So you have to realize you have power.
I
You know,
love that.
sometimes sometimes you feel helpless because what life has handed you makes you feel helpless.
Mhm.
But at some point you wake up and you look up at the sky and you see the birds and you see the beauty of life and you go, I want to live. I
Yeah.
want to live and I want to have the best life I can have.
Oh, that's lovely. I love that as well. And I think that's really, really important. And have you been in the music industry? Have you ever faced any kind of challenges or barriers and stigma and discrimination for being who you are and for also coming from a place that's not been the most, you know, the most easiest of places to navigate?
Mm. There's a idea of where people that get successful don't want to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I've experienced in life meeting very successful people thinking that if I reached out to them, they would help me.
Oh, I thought that as well.
Right? Yeah. Like, like you have a perception of an individual, right? And you admire them and they
Yeah.
turn out not to be what you think they are.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's one of the biggest disappointments I've had in life is to admire someone and realize that they were not the person you admired.
I kind of get that as well. But I think, you know, there's a lot of pressure placed on people that have already made it rather than people that are trying to make it. And I think the difference I've trying to trying to change is being someone from the bottom and trying to support other people. So I'm not the only one. And like you said, building those communities and making sure that everyone's looked after. But then when you're doing that, sometimes you forget about yourself. And I do
Hmm.
this a lot for my community. And I think, being a trans woman right now has been really challenging. And some of that really affects you personally. How do you deal with some of the stuff that you have to deal with and not take it personally? Especially someone that's very empathetic and understanding, and you're very.
Hmm.
So, what kind of
Hmm.
advice do you give on that?
Um, there was a quote from a long time ago that's helped me, and it says, "People don't see you; they see you how they see themselves, but not how you are." So there's this. You have to begin to realize that sometimes people, in a moment in time, are stuck inside of their minds, and
Yeah,
it's nothing to do with you.
yeah,
It has nothing to do with you at all. There's
hmm,
something going on in their own life that's made them stuck in their mind. So
yeah,
they really can't be there for you at the
yeah,
moment. And
yes,
so I've discovered after 25 years of helping people that there are moments in time where I shouldn't be helping this person because they're not ready to be helped.
yes,
But then a year later or 6 months later, whatever, they're ready,
hmm,
right? They're ready. They have come out of the fog,
hmm.
right?
I,
And
yeah, I
that's that's I think that's the most important thing for people to realize, that some people are in a fog, and it isn't that they don't love you or like you or want
yeah,
to work with you.
yeah.
They're in something themselves.
And I think that's a great thing that you just said there. And I think for me, it's been about timing, but also when I've been ready, other people haven't been ready. And then I think sometimes you might slip into not being ready, or you might go through your own personal difficulties. So have you had to navigate some of those issues yourself?
A lot, yeah, over life and time. I
Hmm.
mean, as an artist myself, I've had these moments where I've really wanted to show work with people or deal with work with people, and realized that they thought at the moment when I was
Yeah.
younger doing that work, that I wasn't going to be accepted. I wasn't going to be part of the group, and the other ones were kind of suppressing me to be part of the group. And sometimes I would look back and say it's because, oh, maybe my talent is greater than their talent, or they find me as a threat, or they do that.
Yeah.
But again, I go back to the idea of this timing thing. Like it's like I gave up that feeling of like, this is the thing that I think is the most important for creatives, is to give up the feeling of being competitive.
I know collaboration more than competition, right?
Yeah, yeah, because the competitive mind is not the creative mind. And
Yeah.
the creative mind can create all things. It
Yeah.
can make things out of air.
Hmm.
So it's a creator.
Yeah.
It's the creative. So there's really not a fear. There should be no fear in the creative mind, because unlike some, you're not structured to an ABC
Right.
structured system. You
Yes.
get to make things out of air, out of your mind. You get to
Yeah.
make up ideas,
Yeah.
and those ideas can feed you and clothe you. And ideas really are the things that make money. Ideas.
I love that. And I think, it's about having ideas, but also believing in yourself, isn't it? And having that
Yeah.
faith to keep going, even in those dark times. And, I do sit here and wonder sometimes, am I doing enough? Is what I'm putting out there enough? When you're not valued in an industry that is hyper competitive, that isn't always
Mhm.
supportive, that doesn't always understand you, and you're also trying to change a systemic issues. How have you dealt with that along your path and your journey?
Mm. What I've learned over time is, if I give more than I receive, I create an imbalance.
Yes. Yeah, we had this chat, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, it's an emotional imbalance. It's also a financial imbalance.
Mhm.
And so your energy is so taken because you're a beautiful soul and you want to help other people. And there's a lot of people out there that are from this mindset. I was, as a young child, like that, as a young person, very much wanted to be more giving than receiving.
Yes.
But I began to understand something, that if I don't make the most of it myself, I can't help other people.
Yeah.
It became an understanding, and I live by that kind of idea. You wake up, make the most of yourself. So if you want to help other people, you have to be strong.
Yeah.
And in order to be strong, you have to be strong in your mind and your mindset. and
Yeah.
you have to be strong, in the way you think about making a living.
Yeah.
Because if you're good at those things, your job is to help other people do well,
Yeah.
right? But if you're struggling yourself, you will create that imbalance in the whole system. So when you go to try to help someone, they will see you as struggling instead of advancing.
Yeah. And I think sometimes there is those struggles that come along with advancement as well. And, you know, like I said to you the other time, Sean, I think sometimes there's two different worlds. And when you're in the middle of two worlds, and then you're not in this world and you're not in that world, it's navigating that change. What kind of advice would you give to people that are navigating change, that are going through that transition of changing from one to the other? And it's not so smooth and it's not as easy as what you thought it was going to be. You know, what kind of advice would you give to someone that's going through that change, that transition?
Um, I think accepting that you are loved and you are a person of value, and
Mm,
that you are a person of power.
mm.
The mind right
Yeah,
here is very powerful.
yeah.
And sometimes you have to reassure yourself
I,
every day
I
that
do.
I am here for a reason. I
Yes.
have a purpose in life, and I am here to be of service,
Mhm.
and I am here to make great things. And lose this fear of that. Like, oftentimes in the creative thing that I think is most important to understand is there's a time to be create, and then there's a time to work with people.
Mhm.
And so the truth of it is how you use time is how you make a living,
Yes.
because you're self-employed, right? Like, I mean, you're
Absolutely.
self-employed. So
Yeah.
let's say you don't do any money-making activities for 2 weeks. You're not obviously not going to make any money, right? Like, it's not going to happen because you didn't
Yeah.
do any activities that make money.
Yeah.
So you have to balance out your time. And the truth is, creative people who are self-employed people, uh, that's how money is made. It's made through the use of time.
Time
So how
management.
you use your time, right?
That's
Yeah.
something I think I've struggled with a little bit actually, Sean. And I'll be honest with you on the show. You know, I'm making music, but I'm also in the music business side of stuff. So I'm a creative, but I'm also trying to change systems and businesses. And I think, you know, sometimes I get upset when I'm not making music, when I'm not creating. And if I'm doing
Mhm.
too much of the academic stuff, then I'm not doing enough of the creative stuff. And I'm trying to now balance my time between the two and make them both work, you know, and align them together. And I find that quite tricky sometimes, you know, because
Yeah.
there's all these demands. But I'm also scared of making sure that I can survive. So, what kind of advice would you give to someone that is trying to, you know, sometimes we're not just an artist anymore. We're in the business and we're also changing systems, but we're also representing community. What kind
Mm.
of advice would you give to people that are creatives but are not creating enough? And then it affects you because I use art as a kind of therapy and a release, and also to put down my feelings and to get some of those emotions off of my, you know, my heart, my soul, and put them out there. So, what kind of advice would you give to someone that's going through that?
Well, we're blessed with new technology today. It can be evil and it can be good.
Oh
The
yeah,
way, the way we use technology. But I think to set schedules and reminders, what I find in very high creative minds, they um, they can go into a space and be lost in it for, like, I could be painting and realize the whole day is over.
yeah.
I didn't eat anything. I
I've done
didn't even
many.
drink water. Right. And I know people that's, write songs and they're like that. They didn't drink, they didn't eat water. They get in what we call a flow,
Yeah.
right? And I would say a creative flow.
Oh, I called it so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that it's really important that you maybe you use the systems like, what you have in your phone and your email and your reminders and all these different technologies to remind you, stop, it's time to eat.
Yeah.
Stop,
Yeah.
it's time to work on something else, and then work on this, tomorrow or the next day or the next day. So every day getting up and really structuring your schedule
Re-
very religiously, very precisely,
Yeah.
is a business technique for creatives, because oftentimes you'll meet somebody in a cafe or something, and then pretty soon it's a whole day conversation.
Hmm.
And that's the beauty of a creative mind, that they can have beautiful conversations. And also the beauty of it is, if you are successful, you can completely control your time,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You know, you could completely, you could make more, you know, more successful in 6 months than, and have 6 months really to be a certain way because you make so much money in 6 months.
Yeah.
And then you can plan your time. You can plan your time if you want to travel. You plan your time if you want to be with your friends. You can plan that. But I think the difficult part in the creative mind is to control time because time is not important to the creative mind.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not.
Sometimes you've got to switch off and have some me time. And I think that's the thing I really struggle with, is having some bit of time for myself. Do you know what I mean? Because I get so into it, I don't stop. You know what I mean?
Mm, yeah, there's a recharge area.
Yes.
I'm also a huge believer in the subconscious mind, right? So I believe it's really important to write things down.
Hmm.
So if you do your schedule, you write things down, you have like a, you know, this is a basic thing, but it's very important. A to-do list every day. Like I need to work on this, I need to work on this, I need to work on this,
I have to do
right? Like every day, you know.
that.
And what I'm talking about is like these kind of structures, these habits that if you do them daily, they become habits, right?
Yeah.
So they become part of who you are.
Yeah.
And but they are the succeed very much these habits create success
Yeah.
because you're controlling the time between making and making a living,
Yeah.
right? And then you realize you have more time. I mean, you have 24 hours in a day, they say, right? Right. But I think you actually have more because I think when you sleep, so if
You're,
you write things down,
you're still thinking, yeah, you're still
yeah,
creating.
yeah, yeah. If you write things down before you go to bed,
Yeah.
or which I think is a good idea, and
Hmm.
you read it and you read it, the subconscious mind solves problems. I'm a believer of that. Like while you're there, the subconscious mind solves problems, and I believe that because you know I paint from dreams and
It's
I
true.
use you know like there, but it sets in motion something. And I don't know if you've had it, but I'm sure you've had it just like
I
me. I
have.
wake up in the middle of the night and I'm
Yeah,
like,
write it
wow,
down.
I have this amazing idea.
Write it down quick, because otherwise I'll forget
Right?
it.
Yeah. It's like, where did it come from?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it comes from this great source that we have. Like, I think maybe all humans have it. All
Yes.
people have it.
Sure.
But the creative people are more in touch with it. Like they realize, wow, it's an idea. This is important. I have a great idea.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to lose it. I don't want to forget it. And
Yes.
then that's the other technique is maybe having a recorder next to you, like a hand recorder or your phone. You know, you have these applications that record on the phone, and
Yeah.
you begin to record those ideas throughout the day.
Mm.
You know, so I've kind of mentioning systems that you have in place that are really important to control your time, so that you can actually control the way you make money because you actually do make money through time. You control time and you make money through that, through your gigs and your
Yeah.
networks and you're like that's how you actually make money.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Shaun. I really appreciate that. And if listeners want to connect with you, find out more about the work that you do, how would they do that?
Well, I have a simple website called CassidyCreativeSolutions.com, and they can find me on LinkedIn, Shaun Cassidy. I'm
Yeah,
sure you can share the link there.
will do.
And yeah, I have really large networks. It won't be hard to find me.
I'll leave all
But yeah,
the link below when we release the podcast. I'll put all your details in the link below. Is there major wins or successes you'd like to share with us before we go? We've got 2 minutes left.
yeah. Locally here, years ago, I met a young filmmaker
Yeah,
he had a big dream. He wanted to have his own studio, a
yeah.
really large studio like he's seen in Hollywood. And 4 years later, he got the financing.
Hey,
So
I
we
love
have
that
we
story.
have broken ground, and we're making a very large film studio here in my area. And he hopes to attract people from all over the world to come here.
Oh, well done. Well, we'll promote that as well. And good luck to him as well. And good luck to you and all the work that you're doing. Thank you for so much for coming on the show, sharing your expertise and your story with us. I've even got tears in my eyes sometimes because I listen to some of the things you say. They're so powerful, so inspirational. And I just want to
Mm.
say a massive thank you. So I really appreciate your time.
I love your work and what you're doing. You're an empowerer, and I was really honored to be on your show.
Thank you so, so much. And I'm sorry, I try my best to support everyone. And sometimes I felt one of those tearful days today. But thank you for putting up with me. And thank you again. You're awesome. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.